Sometimes I just want to be Bernie Sanders. Today I decided to make Bernie Sanders inauguration mittens. At first when I looked at them I was kind of worried because I thought they were knitted or crocheted or something. Then I looked at them more closely and realized that they're actually made out of old sweaters. What the actual bunny slipper are these fingers? I don't even know. Thankfully, the Bernie Sanders mittens do not have fingers. They are just mittens. Let me go Google and see if I can find a pattern. Alright, I just Googled how to make a sweater from mittens and I came across this website, Make and Do Crew, and they have a free printable pattern. Printers are kind of magical. Why are so many pages printing?
It's definitely a chilly morning and I'm going to be headed over to God's Storehouse, which is our local like tiny little thrift store. I think it's open, I'm not sure, because I want to see if they have any wool sweaters there. It's such a tiny thrift store that they're a lot cheaper than Goodwill and St. Vinny's, so I'll go there first, and if they don't have what I want, then I'll go to Goodwill and St. Vinny's. Oh hey, there's a train going by. I don't know if you can see through my sort of dappled window. Dappled? No. Droppled? Whatever.
Alright, I went to several thrift stores. At God's Storehouse, they made you wear gloves as well as masks, which normally I wouldn't mind, but I like, when I'm trying to find wool sweaters, I do it by feel. I could not make a sentence with both find and feel in it. Wow. I didn't end up finding any wool sweaters at God's Storehouse, but I did find something. I found this lovely cape, which I'm just gonna wear. I'm not gonna turn it into any Bernie Sanders mittens. I'm just gonna wear it because it's cute. But then I went to St. Vinny's and I did find some sweaters, wool sweaters. I found this one, which is a similar-ish print to Bernie Sanders's, except in my opinion, less ugly. And then I also just found plain black. So now I'm going to go try to felt them. I've never felted anything before. I just Googled how to felt wool sweaters. Anyway, it says that what you're supposed to do is wash your sweaters on a long hot cycle and that you can add a pair of old running shoes to the cycle to pummel the fibers into felted submission. That's a weird way of putting it, but whatever. Hopefully these aren't too dirty. Do you hear that? I chose to do this video on the same day that our bathroom is getting remodeled. I'm gonna film myself making those mittens and I'm just gonna do voiceover on it because I don't want all this pounding whatever stuff in the background. I set up a table to work at, but it was really ugly, so I covered it up with this tablecloth, and then since I was already being fancy, I poured myself a cup of tea. After I washed the sweater, I dried it on the highest setting for an hour, but I didn't really know how to tell if it had felted enough or if the fibers had been pummeled into submission enough, but it was shrank, whatever, and so I decided to just go with it. Altogether, there were 6 pattern pieces, 3 for each hand. I thought that was really dumb because hands are mirror opposites of each other, so you really just need 3 pattern pieces because if you pin a piece to the sweater and cut through both layers, it will create mirror opposite pieces. Bernie's mittens were made from 4 different sweaters, but I only had 2 sweaters, so I used the pattern sweater for the back and the lower palm, and I used the black sweater for the cuffs and the upper palm. And for the cuffs, I just cut off the ends of the sweater sleeves, so that was super easy. After I cut out all the pieces, I pinned the upper palm piece to the lower palm piece, right sides together, and sewed around the thumb. And just as a side note, if you're the type of person who often forgets to put the right sides together when sewing, just remember that seams are ugly. So when you're sewing seams, you should be looking at the ugly side of the fabric. Then pick up the back piece, which looks like this. Actually, real quick, let me show you. This is what the wrong side of the fabric looks like compared to the right side, at least with my particular sweater. Anyway, open up your 2 palm pieces like this and pin them to the back piece, right sides together. Sew around the edge, leaving the bottom open. And you'll kind of have to zoom the thumb out of the way as you sew around the edge of the mitten. After you have sewed all the way around, turn the whole thing right side out and become smitten with your new mitten. Then repeat the process with the other mitten, and now it's time to make the lining. The lining was supposed to be smaller than the outer mitten, so I took the 3 right-hand pattern pieces and I cut them on the smaller lines. We had some black fleece fabric in the attic, so I folded the fleece over, pinned a pattern piece on it, and cut through both layers at once, which created mirror opposite pieces, one for each hand. But in the end, it didn't even really matter because the fleece looked exactly the same on both sides. Anyway, then I sewed the lining pieces together exactly the same way I'd sewed the outer mitten pieces together. They mostly fit nicely, except the thumbs are definitely too long. However, Bernie Sanders' gloves were very obviously large, probably too large for him, so we're just going to go with it. And the lining should have, you know, the scruffy part on the outside. And then I'm just going to put the other part of the mitten over top of it. So just wiggle your hand around, get it nice and in there properly. I'm just going to stick some pins in, but hopefully not pin myself. I mean, poke myself. But that will just kind of hold the lining where I wish it to be. Alright, so we have our glove and we have our little wrist thing that we cut off earlier. I guess cuff is the right word. We need to sew it to it. The website said to use yarn and a darning needle, which seemed weird to me. I used a sewing machine and the sewing machine couldn't really sew through all 3 layers, and this was just so bunched up inside because the layers are so thick that it didn't really work. This is all I could find for yarn, and it's way too thick to sew anything with, so I'm going to try to unravel it. Take the cuff, make sure that the nice side is showing. Stick it like this down into the glove. Okay, I pinned it on all 4 corners, hopefully about evenly. I'm just going to sew this with a giant needle. I'm going to go around about 3 times. Oh, hey, there he goes. Nah, it came apart. Okay, I'm going to have to get completely different yarn. All right, I'm using this green stuff instead. It doesn't really match, even though there is a little bit of green in here. But you know what? Bernie's gloves were actually really tacky if you looked at them up close, so the tackier it is, the more like Bernie it is. Hopefully there's no corona on this yarn piece. Ah, hey, that worked a lot better. Alright, so I have now sewn around twice, which I think is enough to hold in place. I guess we'll see. You know what the weird thing is? Normally I'm very germ conscious, but when I'm sewing I stick stuff in my mouth all the time. Reach in here and just pull out the little sleeve thing and then tuck it up over. Ooh, just realized that there's some stray pins in here. This one just fell out. There we go. All right, now do that on the other side. Bernie Sanders' gloves were made by this woman named Jen Ellis. I think Bernie's niece is a kindergarten teacher and taught Jen Ellis's daughter. So Jen Ellis was making mittens as gifts for her daughter's kindergarten teachers, and she was a fan of Bernie Sanders, and so she gave an extra pair to Bernie's niece and was like, hey, you know, poor Bernie lost to Hillary in the primaries. This was a while ago. Why don't you give them these to cheer him up? She made them out of recycled sweaters, which I did as well. She tends to make them more garish and clashy, whereas these kind of aren't that garish and clashy. So maybe I should do something to make them more garish and clashy. Anyway, she also lines them with fleece that's made from recycled water bottles, and my fleece was just from the attic. I was trying to think if there's a way I could use a recycled water bottle to make these more garish and clashy. Oh, hey, you can hear the construction noises again. These gloves are actually not very grippy. After mutilating this water bottle to try to make like a button or something, I finally decided to just cut off the whole bottom of the bottle and make a flower. I tried to pound holes into it so I could sew it on, but that was pretty much impossible for me and my delicate lady muscles, so I just used my robust lady brain instead and hot glued some safety pins onto the bottle butts and then pinned them onto the mittens. So then, of course, I had to prance around in a Bernie Sanders outfit, showing off my Bernie Sanders mittens for a while. And then, of course, I had to do the Bernie Sanders pose. And then, of course, I had to dress up like Amanda Gorman because, hello, and then I couldn't resist showing off the new cape I got as well. So here I am, doing all those things. So that is how you make Bernie Sanders mittens. As long as you know how to use a sewing machine, the process is very simple. Also, it is a great way to recycle old wool and fleece garments. Pretty much any thrift store should have like yarn and a darning needle. I am going to link all the websites I used in the description box below. If you like this video, give it a like. And if you want to be inspired to pursue all of your wild and uncommon crafting dreams, you can subscribe to this channel. Alright, I think I'm going to go sit alone outside in a folding chair for a while, so ta-ta!